Oh,
relaxation.
yeah. What I'm doing now when I practice is I'm not trying to practice for power or practice for speed. The whole object of my practice now is to develop more relaxation. So that's what I'm concentrating. I'm using like meditative techniques, especially when I do endurance exercises. I try to get into a meditative state and try to get more relaxed as the practice goes on. So when I'm doing a long single stroke, I should be more relaxed in the middle of it than I was when I started. So it gets easier.
So, as we
You know.
discussed, so some individuals will think of relaxed as being unplugged. So that's not the case clearly. And what we talked about being relaxed is not using extraneous effort, using only what's necessary.
Right.
To
Minimal.
minimal amount, but what's necessary to make that work for you, because
Yeah. Well, what happens is as I go up the metronome, and we accelerate, it creates the need for more energy to increase the acceleration. So that's why I'm trying to relax even further, because the more it's required on me, the more I need to relax. So I'm trying to go in the opposite direction. I'm trying to defeat the endurance test by relaxing further than I was when I began.
so what I don't understand is specifically what are you relaxing?
What am I relaxing?
Yeah, what's because your arms have to move, you have to breathe, you have to look at what
Well,
you're doing occasionally.
I'm using a minimal amount. Then when I'm relaxing, okay, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm relaxing my hands to being limp, but
Okay.
my wrist muscles are doing all of the work.
Okay, and those come from up here. The wrist muscles, the thing that turns your wrist are not here. The belly of those muscles are
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever my arms are doing, my wrists are like this,
Mm-hmm.
but just enough so that I can hold the position to where I want on the sticks. So I maintain control over the sticks.
Right. So you have enough support in your trunk and your body to stay upright,
Mm-hmm.
and and you can, if I'm hearing you correctly, that as you go through the early stages of this exercise, we all think that we're relaxed,
Right.
but we're
We
really
can
not.
relax more if
We
we
need to
concentrate.
relax more, and that comes from the contrast of letting go on the rebound even more.
Relying more on the rebound, right? Letting go and letting more of the natural energy
Right.
of the stick.
Yeah.
the work.
So the resilience, the feedback, the ground forces, if you will,
Mhm.
hit the the stick in the drum, whatever it is.
And I also feel that there's momentum that's continued onto the downstroke. On the upside, when you stop the stroke from coming up and then you throw another one down without stopping in a continuous motion,
Yeah.
I believe you're converting some of the upward energy into downward energy.
And also, yeah, some of that there is a rhythmical kind of inertial effect.
So therefore, it's much less energy to play continuously
In that longer range.
in that long range, rather than to hit and stop, because then you have to go from zero.
Yeah, you have to put the
and
brakes
get to
on.
you have to use your full amount of energy to get the momentum going again. Whereas once the stick is moving, on the rebound you can return some of that momentum to the downward side.
Well,
So you don't have to throw it down with as much energy.
correct. So you're speaking to those forces that just there's as the air floats the stick just at its point before
At the high point, right before
high-
it. Yeah, so when you throw a ball up in the air,
Yeah.
just right before it starts going back down at you.
and you grab onto
So you
that
want just
train.
enough energy to get it back up, and then
And then you drop.
and then return, then give it a little bit of your energy, which then you can release immediately through the whole transaction.
Right, and each of those moments then happens so quickly, and it takes all these years of
And
understanding.
to trigger it and release it, trigger it and release it so
Yeah,
quickly.
you're constantly jumping on a moving train without missing a step.
Yes.
You're going
Yeah.
all the way up, and then right at that moment you go, time to get back on.
Yeah. So to me, what's happening is that every time I initiate a stroke, I'm creating tension. and then I'm trying to relax between the stroke until the next time I have to throw another one.
So
By not using as little energy as I can,
right.
and let the stick take me where it wants to go.
And is all of that in your mind coming only from your lower arm, or does some of that come from somewhere else?
I'm not quite sure where you're going with this, but So there are three physical areas that we work with. We work with our wrists, and we work with our arms, and we work with our fingers. Okay, we basically build a foundation of wrist, because that's where the source of everything is the wrist, and then we add arms to that when we want to add power, and then when we want to add more finesse, we add fingers to it. So what that does is basically we have a way of increasing or decreasing mass. So we have two ways of creating volume now. We can either do it by acceleration, or we could do it by a change of mass, or a combination of the two.
Combination of the two, okay.
Which is what really happens when we play molar or a whip stroke. We're actually doing the combination of the two. We're adding more mass, and we're creating more momentum through acceleration because of the whip.
So, and this may or may not relate or not, I don't know.
Okay.
But the one thing that most people, our generation, remember is Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, bigger question is, where did that come from?
Well, there's also Ali's one, Liston's knockout.
Yeah, where did that come from? So
acceleration.
Acceleration in a very small amount of space.
Well, that's very difficult. Well, that's the problem. Acceleration. Your maximum acceleration depends on the distance you have to travel, which is why we use height.
Gravity is the great organizer, because if gravity went up, you'd have to play in a different direction.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine playing in space where there's no gravity.
Right. So it works. It works with you. I would say, and this is just conjecture, that now Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch and Ali's short, powerful punches were one only. They didn't have to play a single stroke punch for 40 minutes.
Right. They didn't even have to repeat it. Right.
Yeah. If they did it right the first time, it was over.
Right.
Somebody was sleeping. Somebody was standing.
Right.
Right. So, but the idea that there, in my view, may be another place to anchor into that informs what comes down the kinetic chain, because I have people that lay on my table and say, what should I do with my arm? I said, make sure it stays attached.
That's good.
Yeah. But the idea like early stage learners and martial artists, they look like they're doing the right thing, but they're fighting with their arms.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So the people who really do the shit, we don't know what they do unless they teach us how to do it.
Right.
And there are some that are doing that. But what they're telling us is that there are subtle arrangements of feet, legs, and pelvis, what they call the energy center, that's deep down in, that those motions are the motions that generate everything that goes out through their fingers. And I suspect that in all human endeavor, that there is something there for us no matter what we do. That stuff came out of live or die.
Survival, yeah.
Survival. And, now they study it to be, connected to disciplines and good body movement and all that. But I still think that it should not get turned off in activities of daily living or making music or anything else. So the suggestion is, and I don't know the full answer, is that there is a breathing that should be constant, because the only time one should hold their breath is when you're tossing Volkswagens or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. And the other is that the breath is such a neurophysiological organizer that it feeds into the movements that you're making in the moment. So relaxation can be defined a little differently in terms of being efficient, that sometimes you might have to work a little harder to make it easier at the production point of things. So that there may be something, a way of sitting and subtle ways of comporting one's foot pressure and pelvis, although the drum is difficult because
Well, you're using your feet and
using your feet.
Yeah.
So there has to be a center that is less than passive but not overactive. It has to be stable and dynamic both in the same breath. So it has to, the arms and the wrist push against the elbow joint. The elbow joint relies on the comportment of the shoulder complex. The shoulder complex and the spine all talk together with head and neck position. So all these things now become, as you said before, you do this and it's one thing. It's no longer you're breaking it down. You figured it out, that you know what it feels like when the stroke gets to the top and you just have to go for the ride on there, and at the very end, like a good whip, you snap it. And so you get everything, the crack that you need out of it, or the subtle tap that you need out of it. But I think that there is a whole body way to do this that only you would know its whole body. How one sits, how one breathes, how one generates this force. Think of perhaps some kind of sinuous energetic force that arises from your pelvis, goes through your spine and out your arm. Rather than, and it might, nobody would know but you. See, that's the thing.
Well, I remember saying to people that I could play for my ass.
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that the stability balancing with mobility, the dynamics in a young student, they have to learn first how to sit and be able to lift their feet and lift their arms without the tail wagging the dog. Because what happens then is they start moving around and their reference point changes so drastically that they'll never hit the bullseye. But they think they are. They don't know where the you are here is yet. They haven't got that down.
Yeah, well, posture is a really big issue.
And posture is a dynamic constantly, and the relationship is, it's always, it's you can't just move your arm and have nothing else be affected by that. There is an effect, whether you're trying to do it or not, but there is an effect. It's there.
Oh, yeah.
It's there. So you move your arm up and down, and on the one hand, one could argue, and I don't know the answer to this, so maybe you can answer, that on the one hand, it doesn't matter where your body is relative to your arm, as long as your arm is doing this thing. Or is there an advantage to creating a relationship that runs from your tailbone out of your spine and out your arm? And it's not that your spine has to whip and that you're going to be waving and curling out in space, but that there is a support mechanism that is facile and dynamic enough that it still supports the dynamic aspect of making the arm move. And I would say that, I've seen videos of these guys that sit in a suit and tie and play the drums like they're in a marching band. They're upright. They play well, it seems, but it doesn't look comfortable to me.
Well, this is difficult. He presented a difficult situation to me.
So this is, but coming back to relaxation now, it's the relative value of, okay, you want to be efficient, but you don't want to go down the road in a 4-cylinder car and 2 cylinders.
Yes, I have an issue with field drumming. I mean, it just looks uncomfortable.
For even to the observer.
It's not. It doesn't look relaxed to me, and it's not. I don't think it's very musical. I don't think it develops a musical sense from working in that area. I mean, it's not that field drummers haven't gone into commercial music and done well and played
Right.
a good set of drums. I just don't think it's conducive to that in a general way.
But even people that play a kit sometimes look like they're still on the field.
Well, because that's because
And I don't know if-
they're playing with tension, and I'm trying to play with the least amount of tension as possible. And also, this is the tension release thing. They are not releasing between strokes. They're tense the whole time. They lock and they stay locked
Yeah,
until they have to stop playing, and then they can.
yeah,
The idea is, what I was saying before is that I tense for the stroke and then immediately release and relax for the rest of the stroke so that my muscle can recoup somehow, either by recouping the energy that it lost or getting rid of the schmutz that it created.
yeah.
But I'm constantly allowing myself the rest period
Yeah.
in between, and that's what I think is creating my endurance. Because my energy threshold is never breached.
Right, and you're efficient at letting go.
That's what I'm calling relaxation.
Relaxation.
Is because I'm practicing how to let go more and more, and the more I let go, the more relaxed I get, the more endurance I have. You know, like I was saying earlier to you, when Joe gave me endurance exercises, he would give me the single stroke roll. And we'll pick a tempo of 144. That's the one I use. And I mean, you can graduate and start at 144 and do 152. That's what he did. But you start out at 144 and you take a clock with a second hand and you do it for 5 minutes. And you can't do it in 5 minutes. You do it for 2 minutes.
Right.
And it's like a marathon runner. Every day you do it a little longer, and pretty much you got your 5 minutes. You come back. I show up for 5 minutes. It's okay. Do it for 10 minutes. Come back when you got it for 10 minutes. So, and that's as far as I ever got it. Okay, and that's as far as he ever pushed me. But now I've been working on a lot of endurance because I'm finding that the endurance forces me to relax.
Yeah.
So I'm using the endurance exercises to train my relaxation. Right?
Being efficient. Yeah.
Being efficient because now I have to pace myself. If I want to do 10 or 15 minutes, I gotta, so I'm not trying to play loud, I'm not trying to play soft. I'm playing very close to the pad and at a medium tempo. I just want to make it. I just want to cross the finish line to make that 23 mile.
Right.
And
I'll bet that regardless of how long it is at the end, most people are recruiting more.
Well, I'm more relaxed at the end than when I started.
And I would suggest that at certain points that you have what you're calling relaxed is, again, not unplugged, but that you have a support system that is listening to what your arms are doing.
Well, I've spent a lot of time focusing on my stroke. Just one stroke. What happens in one stroke? To try to eliminate
all the extras.
All the extras that I don't need to make that stroke.
So what did you discover? What did you discard along the way?
Okay, so there's an emotional thing that happens also that you need to deal with, which means that when it starts to feel good, you start to push. So you have to discipline yourself not to do any more than you have to, even though it starts to feel good and you want to.
So when you say feel good, what do you mean? Like you want to go faster or louder?
Yeah, I can dig in because this is good. I can really pop this, and I can play this louder than I'm playing. I can use more energy.
It's harder to play softer.
It's harder to play softer. Yeah. So, but not only is it harder technically, but mentally, it's harder to stay calm and stay disciplined, not to cross the line, not to start playing loud.
That's not the intention of the exercise.
No, the intention of the exercise is to stay even through the whole thing.
So you don't
remove all emotion.
Right. Well, it's okay to feel good if you don't act on it.
If you don't, right. That's right. It could feel good.
You don't want to remove the emotion of feeling good, because that's an extra added plus.
Yes, I mean that's why I do it.
Yeah.
Because it
feels
feels
good.
Yeah, that's why I do it. But if I get into it, it takes me away from.
That's later. That's a different exercise. But so what else have you
So that's part of the relaxation is to be able to control my emotional energy so that so I don't get pulled into the exercise. Halfway through it, it's starting to feel good, and I start really lacing into it to see what I can do.
Yeah.
I have to say no. I don't want to see what I can do. I don't care what I can do. I got to stay here.
This is the point of the exercise. But what else in that discovery, aside from the discipline of not being seduced by your own goodness, what else have you discarded? Or added, for that matter, that made the relaxation
This discovery of rotational motion
okay?
was very important for me, because I realized that you need to be balanced. There's less resistance if you're
Right.
in the center of the rotation
Mm-hmm.
than if you're not in the center of rotation. We're talking about centrifugal forces. So what I realized is that the reason why I have to hold the stick so hard with so much tension is because the centrifugal force of the stick's rotation is pulling it away from me, because I'm not in the center of the rotation. My weight is not balanced in the rotation, so that it's like it's a flywheel effect. If I'm not balanced, so at some part of the rotation, I'm creating a higher degree of centrifugal force. So it's changing. It's not an even amount going through the stroke. My centrifugal forces are changing.
So expound on that. When you say the stick will fly away and you have to grab it to keep it from happening, what did
All right, let me give you this example.
Yeah.
They used to, I don't know, most people are not going to remember this, but there was a ride in Coney Island. It was like a roulette wheel,
Uh-huh.
and
You would get
you would get into this big
and
wheel.
you'd be pushed into the outer perimeter of it.
Well, that's another one. That's
Okay.
that's the other one. Yeah, but this is like a roulette wheel,
Yeah.
right? And you would get in, and everybody would sit on the middle of the thing, and then the wheel would start turning. And then as it got faster, people got pulled out to the end.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same one.
So that's centrifugal force pulling them away from the center.
So how does that fit in to how you hold this?
So if my weight is not in the center of the rotation, it's going to be pulling me away from the center of rotation.
So if you felt that you were fighting this,
Well, I changed my grip. I changed
yeah, so
my whole concept. I went from putting the fulcrum at the end of my right hand here, because the center of my weight is in here. So what's happening is that the stick's fulcrum is here, and my hand fulcrum is here. Or actually, I'm sorry, the fulcrum of my turn
is in your
in
wrist.
is,
Yeah.
well, it starts in the wrist. Here it's in the center, and this rotation is a lot easier. It's more natural this way to get your weight around the center. Here it's more difficult. So I'm trying to emulate a circular motion with my wrist. Okay. Now I was using a fulcrum up here. So the rotation of the stick is here, but the rotation of my hand is here in two different places. So therefore, the centrifugal my centrifugal force is pulling me away from the stick. Whereas if I can get them in the same place.
And how did you do that?
I changed my fulcrum. I changed how consciously what I'm thinking my center of rotation is.
Did you change the weight of your stick? Or
No.
Same
No.
stick.
Same stick. I just changed how I was thinking about it, saying I gotta match the center of my first of all, I gotta think in terms not up and down. I was doing up and down shit. I say no, it's not up and down. It's this. It's circular. Number one, and the other thing is I need to get into the middle of the turn with my weight in order to stop the centrifugal force trying to pull me away from the center. So the further away I'm from the center, the stronger those forces are because of the rotational dynamics of the mass. Because the mass has more of an effect on inertia the further away I get from the center of the rotation.
Right, you have to work as a pull.
So I need the more I center in the rotation, the less my mass is affecting the inertia, which is creating these centrifugal forces.
If someone took a video of your pre and post, would they be able to see a difference in how you make a stroke? Or is that completely a felt
No,
sense?
you could see it.
You
What's
could.
happening now? Okay, so now what I'm doing now is now I don't look at my hands anymore.
Right.
I go by feel because it's like riding a bicycle. I can tell when I'm in balance because
Okay.
it's not pulling me away. When you're sitting, it's very much like riding a bicycle. When you start riding the bicycle, you have to start from a dead stop. It takes a lot of energy to get moving. Now, once it starts moving, you have momentum. Okay, but the thing is, you need to stay in the balance in the middle of that momentum in order to keep the balance and in order to keep the bicycle upright. So you'll learn to keep your weight in balance with the bicycle in the motion, the rotational motion momentum that it's creating with its wheels.
So what I would like to see,
Yeah.
at some point, not
Yeah.
doesn't have to be now, is you playing the old way and playing, in contrast, the new way.
Well, there's an archive of evidence going back to 2009 when I started practicing.
So it's there. We can look at that at that point. Some
You
point.
you want yes, I have 5 years
I don't know that kind of time, but
of videos.
yeah, but
And I'm talking about the same exercises that I did over and over again at different points of my development.
so it would be
So I
nice.
could show you what
Yeah.
I look like in 2009, and I can show you what I look like today, and you will definitely,
You'll
see
see
it.
different. And I think that's important to others who would learn from that.
Well, that's why I did it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I did it for selfish reasons. I did it because that was my teacher. Was to make videos of me practicing and then look at them when I wasn't practicing, so I could focus on what I was doing. Because I found that when I worked in front of a mirror, in the beginning, you work in front of a mirror to make sure your form is okay and all that. But after a while, it just becomes a distraction
Yeah.
to you because you're looking at your image and trying to get your image to look good rather than focusing on how it feels and how it sounds.
Exactly.
So I had to get rid of the. So how do I look at myself then? So the only way to do that is to take a video, and then so when I'm not practicing, and I can totally focus on looking at what I'm doing, and I can evaluate the motion and how much tension, and this is what I did over a period of years. I kept correcting things over and over again. Every time I would correct something, I would run into another problem, a different physical thing. It would move. First I'd get something here, then it would move over here, then it would move over here, then it would move up here, then it would move over there, then it would move over here. It kept moving around, and I kept resolving issues. Now I'm at the point where I don't have any issues at all. So I must be doing it right because there's nothing, I'm not creating any problems for me that I have to correct.
Right. And
That's the reason I did the videos. However, I realized that having this archive of me practicing every 3 or 4 months to get a viewpoint of where I'm at over a 4 or 5 year period
I think it
is
was
invaluable for people to see that.
well, but that kind of action, when you compare then and now, with your commentary voiced over, saying you may not see this, but I want you. You can kind of put a stop.
Well,